There is a current that runs through our days. It's silent, unseen, but it pulls at our attention, always guiding us toward the path of least resistance. We all feel it, this quiet drift, a gentle turning away from what we intend toward what is merely easy. And in that stillness, a struggle begins, not against some visible foe, but against this invisible tide.
And this state of distraction, it's not a catastrophic failure, it's more like a baseline, an inertia. It's that simple, heavy rest that is so incredibly easy to fall into and so very difficult to notice until hours have just been lost to its gravity. It asks for nothing and it takes everything.
We all know this feeling, don't we? Those moments of absolute clarity, of great control, where the path forward just feels easy. But then, a mood can descend. It's like an invisible weight that pulls us away from what we know we ought to be doing. It isn't a lack of desire, not at all. It's just this sudden, inexplicable resistance.
It's a startling exercise, really, to think about the time that's lost, not in some grand failure, but in all these small, tiny pieces. A minute here, 10 minutes there. Each one on its own feels harmless. But when you trace that line from a single day to a week to a full month, you start to see the wall you've built, a wall between yourself and your own life, put there, brick by tiny brick.
And there is a cost to this drift, of course. Even though it makes no sound, it's the slow, quiet fading of our deeper aspirations. You know, they aren't abandoned with some conscious decision, no. They're simply unchosen, moment by moment, until the dust just settles on them like a forgotten memory.
So to push against this current, we need something more than just fleeting motivation. We need an anchor. And that begins with asking the question, why? Why do I really want this? What is the deep, foundational reason that's heavy enough to hold me steady when that tide of distraction pulls?
Lasting change is rarely fueled by sheer effort. The will, it's like a muscle. It fatigues. What's needed is a deep and unwavering reason, a why that endures long after motivation has failed. Whatever that reason is, that is what you hold on to when the cross-currents of distraction arrive. It becomes less about the struggle and more about the stillness of that core purpose.
And then, a realization. The path of least resistance, it isn't some moral failing. It's a law of nature. So instead of fighting it, what if you could leverage it? You could architect a space that actually makes failure harder. You could intentionally design your environment to make no provision for your worst impulses, essentially rerouting the river before you ever have to fight its current.
This isn't a battle of will. It's an act of environmental architecture. The process is really quite simple. First, you have to be honest about what leads to failure. Then, reflect on what contributes to success. And finally, you strategically make no provision for the old way. You just add a single, tiny step of friction to the unwanted habit and remove a step from the new one.
Our surroundings, they aren't passive backdrops. Not at all. They are constantly whispering suggestions to us. Take the mindless scroll, for instance. It's a path that can seem so harmless, but its inertia, it can lead you to a place you never, ever intended to go. A place where you find yourself wanting something you know you shouldn't.
But the old paths are well-worn, and the current is persistent, so of course there will be moments of falling back. A misstep. It isn't a sign that the architecture has failed, no. It's simply a reminder that the river, it still has a memory. The path is never, ever linear.
And in that moment of failure, a harsh inner voice rises. We all know it. But here's a deep truth. Self-condemnation, it's not a motivator. It's an accomplice to the failure. It offers a perfectly good reason to surrender completely. And in doing so, it reinforces the identity of someone who fails.
True progress requires something else, a quiet course correction. It requires letting go of the mistake the very moment it's made, and simply returning to the path. No fanfare, no self-punishment, just a gentle turning back. And this gentleness, it isn't weakness. It is the only way to keep walking.
Think about it like this. A tree doesn't strain to bear fruit. It doesn't struggle or scream or fight. The fruit just appears. It's a natural result of its conditions. When it's planted in good soil, when it's given water and sun, the fruit is simply what happens.
And perhaps self-control is much the same. It's an emergent property. It isn't something we wrestle into submission. It's the thing that arises when other, more foundational conditions are met.
It is the fruit that grows when the soil of our environment is tended to, when our purpose provides clear light, when our response to failure is gentle like water. Discipline is not the effort we apply, but the harvest we collect.
This reframes the entire task. The insight is that self-control isn't the starting point. It's actually a later step, something built upon a solid foundation of other things. So it's not really about winning a battle today. It's about cultivating the garden from which strength will grow tomorrow.
And so the question we're left with is not, how can I force myself to be better? Instead, it's this. Perhaps the goal was never to control the self, but to design a world from which a new self could, quite naturally, emerge.